Imagine you're standing alone on the edge of a cliff. The wind is howling, the ground beneath you is shaking, and the storm clouds ahead promise a fight you're not ready for. Or so you think. In that moment, you have two choices: let chaos consume you, or step forward with unshakable resolve. This is Gregg Swanson, and welcome to the Warrior Mind podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about resilient framework. And resilience is a byproduct of mental strength. And this is what this podcast is founded on, if you sense, is mental strength. And when we think of framework, it's just not one thing, right? If you look at a frame, there's four parts of it, but there's other parts to resilience than just four. So we're going to cover different components that make up this framework for resilience. So this resilience framework isn't a vague concept. Like I said, it's a byproduct of mental strength, which is control, challenge, commitment, and confidence. And it gives way to resilience and grit, which are two different attributes, personality attributes. But this isn't a vague concept, just like mental strength isn't, just like grit isn't. These are scientifically studied phenomenons. So it's a structured, intentional approach to building mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual armor. It's the very core of the conscious warrior's path. And today you're going to learn how to build that framework step by step. So when life applies the heat, you emerge sharper, stronger, and unstoppable, just like a katana, a samurai sword. So let's understand this resilience framework. A resilience framework is the blueprint for thriving under stress and recovering from setbacks. Not that any of us ever have stress or setbacks, right? It's not about ignoring pain or toughen it out. And that's what a lot of folks do, is they just, no gain, no pain, no pain, no gain. And that's not what resilience is about. It's not about pushing through and just pushing through to where maybe you're not supposed to be pushing, but it's about how to thrive under that stress and recover from the setbacks, right? It's about cultivating awareness, adaptability, and taking decisive action. The framework integrates four pillars of the conscious warrior. The first is the physical strength, and this provides the capacity to carry the load and meet physical demands with consistency, not once in a while, not every so often, not when you feel like it, but with consistency. And it also builds mental toughness, which allows you to keep focus and clarity even when you are under intense pressure. So we want to make sure when we're focused is on what we want as opposed to what we don't want. And clarity is we're very specific as to what we want. If we don't have clarity and focus, we could be focusing on the wrong thing. If we have focus with no clarity, we'll be all over the place. We'll follow any shiny object. So this is where mental toughness comes in. And then emotional stability enables you to remain grounded and composed when chaos hits from every direction. And the emotional part is more challenging because we can work the physical part, right? We can go run outside, we can go to CrossFit, we can do gyms, we can do that. And that kind of segues into the mental part. But it's the emotional part which it's really hard to practice and train at because it just comes up spontaneously in life. But when we can push ourselves physically and mentally, there will be some emotional stuff that we can train so that when it does come up in life, that stability rises to the occasion. So emotional stability sometimes can be the toughest out of the four. And then there's spiritual alignment, which ensures that you attach deep meaning to the struggle, transforming hardship into purposeful growth. And that's the other part, is that if we don't know why we're doing what we're doing, then we're going to give up easier. We're not going to be able to build that resilience. We're not going to be able to build that grit. So that spiritual alignment is absolutely essential. They all tie together. They're not one is more important than the other, but they all have a bundle. You bundle them together and they're stronger than each one independently. So how the resilience framework works, right? There's 3 pillars in it. Remember, we talked about there's different components to a framework. So in this one, we went through the 4 pillars of a conscious warrior. Now we're going to look at the framework works. The 3 pillars are awareness, adaptability, and action. Each pillar builds the next, creating mental armor. Like tempering steel, heat, pressure, and cooling create strength. And this is part of this resilience framework, right? And the 3 phases of a conscious warrior's journey, when you have the 4 pillars and this resilience framework, then how do you use it? What goes on? And it's the awakening, which is recognizing the call to rise above what you're doing. There's a call, there's a purpose, right? This is that spiritual part. There's this awakening, like I'm here to do more than what I'm doing. And when this starts to awaken because of the first other 2, the resilience and the 4 pillars, you're getting a call to rise above the minutia, rise above what you're doing now. And then you move into the forging part where you're building skill, strength, and developing mindset tools. So this is part of your journey, right? It's basically like the hero's journey, but this is the conscious warrior journey. And then there's integration, right? Living and leading from resilience daily. If we want to live from resilience daily, that means we have to do hard things daily. Because if we don't do hard things daily, there's no reason for us to fight with the setbacks or move ahead. If we do something easy, we're not going to develop resilience. So if we want to develop resilience daily, we need to do something hard daily. And so the benefits of this resilience framework is peak performance under pressure, whether it's at work, whether it's sports, whether it's athletics, whatever it is, we want to have that. You're speaking peak performance under pressure, emotional stability and clarity. Wow, who doesn't want that, right? When you're giving a talk, or maybe you're involved with a debate, or whether you're asking a client for something that's kind of challenging and they lash out at you, we want to have that emotional stability and clarity, which is one of the benefits from this resilience framework. And then we recover from setbacks. We recover faster from setbacks. Not everybody recovers from a setback. Those that don't have resilience may take 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Those that have developed the resilience framework, that recovery could be hours, if not minutes. And then we've developed this deeper purpose and direction. That purpose, right, that's that part of that spiritual component, is really, why are we doing what we're doing? It's just not to, go on vacation and to have the good things, which are great. All those are great. But if we don't have this purpose that drives us when we are completely exhausted, then we're going to fade out with the resilience. So here's some practical steps to begin this practice, right? Do a self-audit, current resilience levels. You can look at, okay, when I had this challenge, what did I do? Did I stop and move to a different one? Or did I take a break and come back to it? How, your self-audit. These steps are great for if you want to do it by yourself. But I would also recommend, with a self-audit, contact a coach like myself or somebody else and say, hey, I'm not sure of where my resilience are. Can you help me with it? And there's assessments out there as well. There's grit assessments as well. But you want to then adopt a daily grounding practice. So when I work with clients, I develop an AM, a PM, a work, and a nighttime or a sleep practice. And we have this grounding part of our spiritual part of it, the grounding practice in the morning and the evening, because you want to ground yourself before you head out, and when you ground yourself before you come back in home. You don't want to bring all the muck of the workday with you. Even if you work from home, you want to find a grounding practice to leave it all behind. And then you build micro challenges into your routine, right? So maybe, you hold your breath. That's a great one to challenge ourselves. It's really interesting. Hold your breath for 10 seconds, then tomorrow for 11, then 12, then 13. But holding our breath shows how much uncomfort being uncomfortable we can sustain. And the longer you can hold your breath, the longer you're going to be uncomfortable, and that will show up in other areas of your life as well. And then 4, we want to reflect and adapt. So you start the day with you audit yourself, you do some grounding practices, you do some challenges, then you review the day. Hey, how did I do on a scale of 1 to 9? How was my resilience today? What can I do better tomorrow? So here's some final thoughts on this resilience framework, right? The storms aren't going away. They are always coming. The question is, will you be ready for them? Or are you going to wait till the storm hits and then try to get ready? Remember, you don't wait till you're thirsty to dig a well. The resilience framework is your blueprint for becoming unshakable, not by avoiding hardship, but by meeting it head on and using it as fuel to grow. Your next move, start forging your framework today. Step into your warrior mindset and book a power strategy session with me. Let's design your personal blueprint for resilience. If you want to see the show notes on this podcast, you can visit warriormindcoach.com. While you're over there, you can see some more useful information in the form of blog posts and podcasts, as well as how to book that power strategy call. Since you'll be on the internet, please follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest, all under Warrior Mind Coach.